Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to welcome you to the Tutavir workshop of this afternoon. My name is Haydi Widmer, and I'm the product manager of Tutavir at Andermatt Biocontrol Suisse, and I will be your guide during this workshop. We will start with some general facts about the product Tutavir. Afterwards, we will have 4 speakers talking about the tomato leaf miner situation in their country and their experience with Tutavir. We will have presentations from Mihaэль Lihtenberg from Bio in Germany, then Kostas Papapostolow from Greece, from Helafarm, then from Ukraine and Russia, Roman Pobыванец from Bioprotection, and from Spain, Andermatt Iberia, Рафаэль Янгуas. So some general explications for the beginning, that we will have a smooth workshop. If you would like to ask a question during the workshop, please raise your hand in the app using the hand symbol. So this symbol here. So you can do this like this. And then we can see who wants to ask a question. The other possibility is to write into the chat, so using this function here. After each presentation, there will be a Q&A session with the speaker. This meeting will be recorded and the presentations will be made available afterwards. Yes, let's start the recording now. So during each presentation, we will provide a short written summary in the chat. This gives you the option to translate into your language if you want. You can click on these 3 points in the chat and then click Translate here. The text in this chat will then be translated by default to your default language of your app. Alina, would you like to take over?
Yes, thank you. Всем добрый день. Мы приветствуем вас на нашем вебинаре, посвященном Тутавир. Я представлю для русскоязычной аудитории коротенькое вступление. Вы уже слышали в начале мою коллегу Хайди Видмер, это продукт-менеджер компании Andermatt Biocontrol Швейцария. Сегодня она будет вести данный вебинар. И для начала, для общей информации, для того, чтобы все прошло как можно максимально гладко, вот такое небольшое вступление. Значит, начнем мы с общей информации о продукте Тутавир, которую представит Хайди. Далее у нас по программе будет 4 спикера, которые будут докладывать о ситуации с томатной минирующей молей в их странах, а также об их опыте работы с продуктом Тутавир. У нас будут также презентации из Германии, Греции, Украины, Испании. Также будут после каждой презентации сессия вопросов и ответов. Но если вы хотите задать вопрос по ходу презентации, вы также можете воспользоваться функцией «Поднять руку». Heidi, kannst du die Folie mit der Hand bitte zeigen? Вот, как показано сейчас на слайде, можно нажать, и таким образом будет видно, кто желает задать вопрос, и вы будете приглашены к вопросу. Или же также есть возможность задать вопрос в чате. Bitte nächste Folie. Воспользовавшись вот этой кнопкой, нажать на чат и там написать ваши вопросы, оставить. Но, как я уже говорила, будет секция после каждой презентации вопросов и ответов. Вы также можете напрямую задать вопрос каждому из спикеров. Вебинар будет записан, и также после мероприятия презентации, материалы будут доступны всем участникам по запросу. Спасибо большое. Thank you, Heidi.
Julian, your turn, please.
Buenos días y bienvenidos también a todas las personas de América Latina, de Argentina, de Chile y Paraguay, y también a la gente de nuestra sucursal en España, Andermatt Iberia, para participar en este seminario sobre Tutavir. Como Heidi, la gente del producto Tutavir ha dicho, primero vamos a hablar sobre los datos claves del producto Tutavir, después tenemos 4 conferencistas que reportan sobre la situación de tuta absoluta en su país y la experiencia con Tutavir. Tenemos presentaciones de Alemania, de Grecia y Ucrania y España. Y si ustedes tienen preguntas durante el seminario, levante el mano en la aplicación o escribe su pregunta en el chat. Después de cada presentación tendremos una sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Y durante cada presentación escribimos un breve resumen en el chat de Microsoft Teams. Esto le da la opción de traducir a su idioma. Para leer el resumen en su idioma, ustedes tienen que abrir el chat y hacer clic en estos 3 puntos en el chat y luego hacer clic en traducir. Y si no hay más preguntas de su parte ahora, esperemos que ustedes disfruten este seminario sobre Tutavir. Muchas gracias de nuevo para su participación. Muchas gracias, Heidi.
Okay, good. Then we will start with the presentations. Good. So I would like to give you a general overview on Tutavir. I think there are a few hands raised. Alina, do you have a question now before we start?
I'm sorry, Heidi, I forgot about translation. Could you please go back to the previous slide?
Yes.
Thank you. Еще раз прошу прощения для русскоязычной аудитории. Для тех, кому сложно будет воспринимать презентацию на английском, в чате будет параллельная текстовка. Вы также можете нажать на чат, вот когда мы говорили задать вопрос, и нажав на 3 точки рядом, там где вот, как показано, красным выделено, возле текста, там есть такая функция «Перевод». То есть вы можете нажать, и текст будет переведен. Весь дальнейший семинар будет проводиться на английском языке. Но, конечно же, если у вас какие-то возникнут трудности или вопрос вы сможете только на русском задать, вы можете в чате писать, или я могу перевести. Спасибо большое, наслаждайтесь. Thank you, Heidi.
Okay, thank you, Alina. Iris, do you have a question as well for now, before we start with the presentation?
Excuse me, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm Phoebe Legakis from Hella from Greece. We are completely lost. We don't have the translate part in our Teams. We never use Teams, and we don't have the translate part. So are we going to need it, or the presentations are going to be in English?
Just to clarify, everything will be in English. So if you understand English, everything is fine. The slides will be in English. This is just for the participants which are unfamiliar with English and would like to have some additional help. That's why we explained how to integrate.
Did you have any slides to show us? Because we didn't see any slides so far. We only see a picture that says translate with MS Teams. You haven't shown anything yet?
This is the presentation I'm sharing currently. And if everything is okay from the organizational side, then we will move forward with the presentation. And don't worry, all the presentations will be in English.
In English. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. I think then we can start. Good. So I would like to give you a general overview on Tutavir. I will start with some historical facts. then give you some insights into the biology of its target insect, the tomato leaf miner. This is important so that we can better understand how to best apply Tutavir to the crop, which will be the last part of my presentation. The product Tutavir is based on the Phthorimea operculella granulovirus, and it is effective against the tomato leaf miner Tuta absoluta. The tomato leaf miner was first discovered in Europe in 2006. At that point, it started spreading very fast over the Mediterranean area. We started the development of a product against the tomato leaf miner in 2010. After participating in a Swiss project, we had the chance to further develop the product within the framework of a project of the European Union in a collaboration with universities and other companies. By the end of this project, the product was ready for registration and field trials worldwide. In 2019, Tutavir won the Bernard Bloom Award for Novel Biocontrol Solutions. Since 2019, Tutavir was authorized to sell through emergency authorizations in several countries. We've covered a bit about the history of Tutavir. Let me now talk about the biology of its target insect, so the tomato leaf miner. The main host of the tomato leaf miner is, as its name suggests, the tomato. The tomato leaf miner can but also attack other crops like pepper, eggplant, potato, and tobacco. The tomato leaf miner originates from South America, and it was introduced in Spain in 2006, and since then is spreading not only through Europe, but also Africa, and going east. In America, it is moving north. So how can you identify the tomato leaf miner? The adult moth is mainly active during the night. It is around 1 centimeter long, and it has this typical fine antenna with black spots. They lay small single eggs, usually on leaves, but also on stems, sepals, and green fruits. Most of the eggs are laid in the first 2 days of the adult moth life. One female can lay up to 250 eggs. The larvae are 1 to 8 centimeters long, depending on the larval stage. Its characteristic feature is this prominent shield behind the head capsule here. Maybe the easiest way to detect the presence of the tomato leaf miner is the damage on leaves, which are these blotch-like mines, where you can also see the frass here in dark. Mines can lead to severe decrease of the photosynthetic capacity of the plant. With higher pest pressure, also fruits get attacked. Even very small and green fruits already get attacked. The tomato leaf miner bores holes, typically near the sepals, and builds galleries on the fruit's surface. The larvae mostly hatch from eggs in the morning and walk around for up to 1 hour before they start mining into leaves. Larvae can leave the mine for molting between the larval stages or to find a new leaf for mining. Pupae are formed in the soil, but this can also be on or in leaves. The adult moth hatches from the pupae. After mating, the female moth prefers to lay its eggs on the underside of young and clean leaves, which are located on the upper part of the tomato plant. At 25 degrees, the maturation of the eggs takes 4 to 6 days. Then the larval development from the first to the fourth larval stage takes 11 to 15 days, and pupation takes 7 to 11 days. The female adult moth lives for 10 to 20 days. So the higher the temperature, the faster the tomato leaf miner develops. In this graph, you can clearly see how strongly the development rate of the tomato leaf miner depends on the temperature. So while one life cycle takes 37 days at 20 degrees, it is only 17 days at 35 degrees. That is less than half as long. Therefore, the population can increase very fast at high temperatures. In the second part of the presentation, I would like to present to you how to best apply Tutavir. So to obtain maximum efficacy with baculovirus products, there are 6 things to keep in mind. These are pest identification, application timing, good coverage, application rate and interval, and also handling of the product. Let's cover each one of these piles. Tutavir is working specifically against the tomato leaf miner. We have already seen how to identify this pest in the first part of the presentation. It is important to start the application early, once you catch the first adults in traps or observe the first mines on leaves. Adults can be monitored with pheromone, light, or sticky traps. It is best to apply Tutavir over the whole larval hatching period. Why is it important to start early? The first reason is that Tutavir has maximum efficacy on young larvae. The second reason is what I have showed you before about the temperature. The life cycle is short and the population can increase very fast with higher temperatures. As the larvae do not get in contact with Tutavir while they are inside the leaf, it can take up to 1 life cycle to see full efficacy. Generally, Tutavir can be applied as foliar spray in a water volume of 200 to 1,800 liters. A pH between 5 and 8.5 should be respected in the tank. Important is good coverage of the leaves, also of the underside of the leaves, because there are most of the larvae hatching. To avoid high UV and high temperature during spraying, it is best to spray in the morning or in the evening. And remember, Tutavir needs to be ingested by the larvae to have an effect. We generally recommend weekly applications at 50 to 200 milliliters per hectare, and for outdoor use 100 to 200 milliliters per hectare. So how do you choose the application rate and interval best? Higher rates are needed for taller plants, or you calculate in leaf wall area to be independent of the plant height. For high pest pressure or high pest pressure increase, we recommend higher rates or shorter intervals. If you have fast plant growth, it is best to cover the new plant material in short intervals. If roots are present, you might be more cautious not to lose your harvest. For outdoor use, high UV leads to faster degradation of Tutavir. And last, of course, it also depends with which other control measures you use against the tomato leaf miner. So for example, if you tank mix it or use it in rotation with other products. The correct storage of Tutavir is the following: more than 2 years frozen, up to 2 years in the fridge, and up to 3 months at room temperatures. Please avoid to leave the product or the tank at temperatures above 25 degrees. As a last point of my presentation, I show you how Tutavir actually works. So first, there is this direct effect where you spray the leaves, the larvae feeds on the leaf and ingests the baculovirus, the active ingredient of Tutavir, and so the larvae dies. The baculovirus can also be transmitted from dead to living larvae, as dead larvae are full of baculovirus particles, which are released and might be ingested by another larvae. If, for example, a very big larvae takes up very low dose of baculovirus, it might manage to survive but not pupate, or the adult might not be able to hatch from the pupa. So there is also an effect on the subsequent development stages. And last, the next generation of larvae, which carry few particles of the baculovirus inside themselves, the disease can break out with stress and the larvae die. So in addition to this direct lethal effect of Tutavir, we have the so-called population effect, which leads to a decrease of population over time. We could see in a lab trial that larvae which were infected with a very low dose of Tutavir and survived as larvae, up to 80% of them were not able to pupate, and on top, up to 50% of them were not able to hatch from the pupa. So in summary, Tutavir proves to be efficient in controlling leaf miner population and damage. In addition, it is an excellent resistance management tool as it has a new and unique mode of action. Other advantages of Tutavir are that the product is safe for the producer spraying the product, the consumer eating the tomatoes, and the environment. It is also highly compatible not only with other plant protection products, but also pollinators, predators, and other beneficial insects as often used in greenhouse production. There is no maximum residue limit, minimum withholding period, and minimum re-entry interval. So Tutavir can be used in organic farming, integrated production, or also conventional production. Tutavir is ready to use even if it's stored frozen. It has a good storage stability, and important for outdoor use, it has good rain fastness. So thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
Okay, it's my turn, Heidi.
Not yet. Questions first.
Right.
Yes, Alvaro?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. For me, it was not so clear how you calculate the rate for application.
Mm-hmm. So you mean this slide here?
This one, yes. You don't calculate concentration with water or?
Yes, you can also calculate in concentration. And there what we see from the experience from several field trials over the last years that you need at least 0.01%. But I think it depends a little bit from country to country how you calculate, if it's concentration or milliliter per hectares or milliliter per hectares LWA. Yes, but I mean, in general, you can convert from one to the other.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Alina?
Heidi, I have a question, technical question, because the colleagues from Russia, they are saying the chat is not available if you are not a member of the group. Is it possible to fix it now?
Did they make sure to download the app and not use it only in a browser?
Yes, they downloaded the app, but if they click on the chat icon, so there is a message. It is not available for external people, so who is not a member of the group.
Okay, so they can't see the meeting, the chat function at all.
Yes, they can see the comments.
Okay. This is strange. But to be honest, I do not have any idea how to fix this.
Okay.
Very fast now. Maybe somebody outside the Andermatt group, for example, Hello Farm, could you raise your hand if you can see the chat and what is written in the chat? Just as a quick test before we go on. Thank you, great. Okay, so it's not a general problem then. So it depends on the user. Okay, great. So we have some external members which can see it.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions to my presentation? Let me fix to see my presentation again. Okay. Good. Edith and Kostas, may I ask, you're raising your hand because what I've asked before, or would you like to ask a question?
Just to let you know that the chat actually does not work.
Okay. Thank you. Good. Then I think we will need to do it over the just over speaking, so you can raise your hand and you can ask questions directly. Then. Good. I'm sorry for this, but somehow it seems not to work, the chat. So let's move forward. And yes. Vladimir, do you have any question? Can you please unmute your microphone?
Слайд 80-50%, а номер слайда вы не помните? Я думаю, давайте мы просто отдельно потом этот вопрос обсудим, потому что, ну, если сейчас... Это вопрос на, ну, все-таки к Хайди. Хорошо. Heidi, could you go back to the slide with the 50%, 80%?
This one, do you mean?
Yes. And the question is, какой вопрос конкретно? Что? 80-50. What does it mean exactly, 80% and 50%? Is it mortality at this stage, or could you please repeat this or explain this?
Yes, it is. So there were tested different concentrations which were not lethal to the larvae itself, so very low concentrations, and we can see 80% mortality. So it's not going to the next stage.
Mortality of the larvae at this stage, and then the next stage mortality or percent of pupation, right?
Maybe to specify it more, it was 80% of the larvae were not making a pupa.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one, 50% of the pupa, no adult moth was hatching.
Mm-hmm. 80% это это смертность гусениц, то есть из 100% только 20% смогли окуклиться, но это с учетом того, что доза была очень-очень маленькая, то есть это было где-то там от 1000, по-моему, дозы вообще, которая стандартно берется на гектар, то есть это сублетальная доза вводилась, и получается из этих гусениц, ну вот на последней стадии развития, это 4-й получается у тут абсолюты, из них только 20 смогли окуклиться, а из окуклившихся 20% только 50 смогли сформировать взрослую особь, то есть потом в процессе куколок тоже 50 погибло. Этот вопрос теперь раскрыт. Ну, можно так сказать. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. So let's come to the next presentation.
Алина, можно вопрос еще есть?
Yes, please.
Алина, вы меня слышите?
Да, да.
Это Оскар.
Добрый день.
Компания Шеттелик. Я хотел спросить, а можно определить качество препарата, если посмотреть наличие вирусных частиц в этом препарате с помощью электронного микроскопа? Можно ли там увидеть молекулы вируса?
Ну, да, конечно. Heidi, the question was about counting of virus occlusion bodies. So the quality control. Maybe you could explain this. So we do this for every batch, or could you comment this?
Yes, so exactly. So every batch that we produce of Tutavir, we make a quality control, and quality control is based actually on a bioassay. So you really test the product you produced on larvae to be sure that it works according to the specifications.
And what is about the test with counting?
And the other thing is that we normally on the label, you can see how many buccal virus particles are inside the product. So of course, in the quality control, we also make sure that enough particles are inside.
Yeah, thank you. Переводить нужно?
Я понял, спасибо. Спасибо.
Thank you.
Спасибо. Thank you.
Okay, good. We will go on with the next presentation. So please welcome our next speaker. It's Mihaэль Lihtenberg, Advisor, Product and Marketing Manager at Biofa in Germany. So Mihaэль, the stage is yours, please.
Okay, thank you very much. And welcome everybody. So I hope it works. Just a moment. I'm afraid it gets get a problem. Get the presentation on the screen. Just a moment. Here we are. Okay. So I hope everybody can see the presentation now.
We can see it. It's okay.
Okay, perfect. So let's start. Yeah, we working with Tut 2 years in Germany already, and we have made some specific experience with the growers. So the first thing we've seen that Tut was entering Germany, coming up with young plants delivered from other countries. We see that Tuta absoluta seems to have a resistance potential against chlorantraniliprole or coragen. We see that very often missing hygiene in the companies force Tuta absoluta in a quick generation building. We've seen at the beginning that Tutavir very often was used too late. Mating disruption becomes in the meanwhile very important in Germany, but don't forget it has a negative influence on the pheromone traps for your monitoring. They will not work if they are nearby the mating disruption. We have seen, and it was underestimated, that Tuta absoluta at high temperatures has a very, very high multiplication rate. We also made the experience that Tuta absoluta at temperatures for some days higher than 30 degrees starts to lay the eggs into the topic shoots of tomatoes. And we learned that companies with exposure and without energy screen got much more problems with Tuta absoluta. And because of the side effects to beneficials, insecticides containing azadirachtin are not very popular to be used if Tuta absoluta, for example, lays the eggs in the topic shoots of the plants. We also see that Tuta absoluta is a middle or high infestation led to strategies with additional pesticides because it takes time until Tuta absoluta then really will work against Tuta. This is a very normal, a very normal process. Well, everything starts in 2018 with trials which have been made by the official advisors, and they compared chlorantraniliprole with Tuta absoluta, with Tutavir. And you see the blue line, the chlorantraniliprole. At the beginning, it works very well, but at the end, Tuta absoluta was coming back very strong, much stronger than by the use of Tutavir frequently. And we see a lot of companies having problems because of the hygiene. That means please avoid that leaves of the tomatoes keep into the greenhouse. Here, between the leaves, Tuta absoluta feeds very well, and they will multiply themselves here in a strong way. And what we've seen also then, if the waste, these leaves, have been brought out of the greenhouses, then very often they are just around the corner in 2 or 3 big containers. So Tuta absoluta could come back into the greenhouse from these containers. We see here the developing of fruit damage and the control we have had without any treatments in different levels. That means level 1, the first 3 leaves, level 2, the 4th to the 6th leaves, and so on. And if we take Tutavir early enough, what Heidi already mentioned, we see that it goes down very quickly and we never reach a high infestation of the older leaves. So what we learned is that monitoring has to be done even if mating disruption will be used. Mating disruption very often gave the growers in Germany a little bit like a securance, which is not there, because pheromone traps to identify how much Tutavir I have, they won't work nearby the mating disruption. That's very important. Okay. So until you see what happens if you start too late with Tutavir. This company lost more or less all the tomatoes. It was a real disaster. And that means start to use Tutavir. Maybe not when first trap catches appear, but when first minings are seen in the leaves. Latest then, please start to use Tutavir to have success. And also take care of the temperature. Like Heidi already said, you see here the time it needs to develop Tutavir at 15 degrees, round about nearly 90 days. If you have already 30 degrees, like in summertime, usually in greenhouses, very often, they need only 29 days or nearly 30 days. So you have much more cycles of Tutavir, which gives dangerous. And just therefore, we recommend to check the climate conditions. If high temperatures are expected in the next days, then we say, please go for 200 milliliters Tutavir per hectare during the first 3 to 5 applications. Not only with 100 milliliters, please use 200 milliliters. And that works very well. So we also seen if we have temperatures of around about 30 degrees in the greenhouse, the Tutavir starts to lay the eggs here in the topic shoots of the plants. And then even Nimazal is not very friendly to Macrolopus, for example. It's the only chance in the above level to keep the problem. So in that case, we need not only Tutavir, we need an additional insecticide, which is systemic. And we see companies which have exposure just in the dark time of the year, they have more problems with Tuta absoluta because of the light. Tuta absoluta starts much earlier to multiplicate. So even these companies must take care a lot for a monitoring, for a good monitoring. And we learned as well, the spraying technique is one key to success. That means, please check the technique. You should meet the Tutavir under the leaves. This is very important. If you only spray from above, you lost a lot of efficacy. Well, if you go too late with Tutavir, that's something we just spoke at the beginning. It needs much more time to get the first success of efficacy for the grower. And that was a little bit a problem at the beginning because it led to strategies with additional pesticides in organic production and often avoid the use of Tutavir in conventional integrated production. This changed in the meanwhile, but at the beginning, it was a problem to enter the market. So our recommendations, a little bit like a conclusion. First of all, check delivered young plants for infestation with Tutavir. Very important. Even mating disruption will be used. Go for monitoring. But pheromone traps won't work. Therefore, use black glue traps or stripes. Tuta absoluta is mainly active in the dust. Therefore, use pheromone traps to detect the insect pest as early as possible. If first mines are seen in the leaves, start with the treatment with Nimasal TS, followed by Tutavir immediately. Depending on the infestation pressure, go with 200 milliliter per hectare Tutavir for the first 3 to 5 applications to guarantee success. In case of late detection of a high infection or climate conditions which force the development speed of Tuta absoluta, we made good experience to go with the alternating treatment of Tutavir and Nimasal. Avoid old leaves and shoots laying on the ground and don't store the plant waste nearby the greenhouse. Optimize the spraying technique to meet Tuta absoluta at the underside of the leaves, and if possible, take a super spreader with good adhesion together with Tutavir. You can imagine we take, in this case, Wetsit, which is based on orange oil. And if you see, the drop size and the number of drops is much better using Wetsit. And you can imagine this gives a much better covering of the leaves. And if the guy is coming, the chance that he get quick enough of Tutavir is in this case much bigger than in that case here. So that's already from my side. Thank you very much. And if there are some questions, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your interesting presentation. Before we start with the Q&A session of your presentation, what I've just heard is, I would quickly like to show you something. So what might help if you do not see the chat function, if you go to another icon, so if you close the chat function and then open it again, this might help what I've heard. So if you would like to test this, but of course, you can just raise your hand and ask your question.
Yeah, Heidi, I also unfortunately don't have the chat this time. I don't know why. So.
Okay, good. So, Michael, maybe you can share your presentation. Then I will stop this.
Going back for the presentation, yeah.
Yes. So who has questions for Michael? So maybe I can start with one question.
Yep.
So if we could go back to this one slide, you show exposure.
Exposure should be here.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Maybe you can go to the presentation mode again, that we can see it bigger. Thank you. What did you exactly mean by exposure?
That means additional light in the dark time of the year.
So you mean the lighting that it is installed in the greenhouse, the filter?
The lighting in the greenhouse gives very good conditions for Tuta absoluta to start much earlier with multiplicating themselves than in other cases. And very often at the beginning, the growers didn't look for this circumstance. And then they see Tuta absoluta when there was already a high infestation, which also was supported then by the old leaves on the ground, for example.
Okay, good. Thank you. Other questions? Yes, Gonzalo, please.
Hello, good morning. Luis is speaking from Argentina. I wonder how strong is your recommendation in order the application from the bottom to the top, the canopy? You said if I understand right, your recommendation is the application should be in the bottom of the leaf. So we should adapt the spray machine. Goes in that direction. Do you understand me?
Sorry, a little bit difficult. Just a moment. I'll try to go with the headset.
But you hear the?
Yes, it's better with headset. You asked for the technique, right? For the spraying technique.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We see that Tuta absoluta lay their eggs under the leaves, not on top. And if there's an automatically spraying going through, then very often the sprayers, you have to turn a little bit the sprayers to get more of the Tutavir under the leaves. And we've seen by following this way, the success of using Tutavir was much higher and much quicker.
So we should adapt the spray machine.
Yes, this was very helpfully to do in Germany. We have had a problem with a grower who said, well, it's not really working, and we said it's unbelievable, it must work. And then we checked his spraying equipment, and after turning his nozzles to get more water and Tutavir below the leaves, the problem was gone.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do we have other questions for this presentation?
Maybe I was too quick.
No, it's okay. Yes, I can see one other question here. Yes, please.
May I ask you if the application of Tutavir in greenhouses can be done with fog sprayers, if you know, with the sprayers with a very little mist.
Yeah.
So my question is, can we apply Tutavir with fog sprayers in greenhouses, so to achieve the good application of the other side of the leaf?
Well, I must be serious. We don't have any experience with fog spraying. We have experience with fog spraying of Beauveria bassiana in greenhouses, but not with Tutavir until now, because it's not usually done in tomato greenhouses in Germany. Maybe Heidi has more experience.
I must say not specifically with fog spraying, but I think this is something worth to test. And I mean, just after application, you can see very nicely on the leaves how the distribution of the product is, and if you also cover the leaf underside. Maybe I have one more question for you. So you have mentioned, for example, Nimasal in combination with Tutavir.
Yes.
Are there any other products you have tested together or in a rotation that makes sense?
Yeah, there have been BT products like Centauri in Germany, which works. And the integrated companies, they use, for example, Stewart at the beginning in Doxacarb. But yeah, it was more or less, I feel Centauri or BT product is not necessary because Tutavir is working more or less in the same way. It has to be taken up by the larvae. But it seems to be a price problem sometimes. CPT products in Germany are much cheaper than the Tutavir, so some people try to go with the concept of more expensive and less expensive products.
Okay, good. Kostas, do you have a question as well? Do I see this correct?
No question.
Okay, all right. Alina, please.
Okay, I see Roman is raising his hand. Maybe he could tell more about FOC application.
Yeah, hello everyone. Do you hear?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, hello to everyone. So I can say a few words about using FOC system and to make treatment in a such way. Some of our clients using such methods, but as we discussed earlier, it not gives such high results because mostly FOC system covering
the top
of the plant and not covering for the whole plant. So and it not comes under the leaf. So this is the main problem of using FOC system. And some of the clients even try to do on the top of the plant. So it, for example, if you have lightning crop or south region of greenhouses in a such region of your growing, so sunlight kills a lot of viruses, variants of Tutavir, so it cannot give so high number of result. And another question to Mihal. So do you use some other methods, for example, like electric traps or maybe, I don't know, another products in IPM technology? Because I saw that you are represent with beneficial insects. Maybe you can combine with some other solutions. It's interesting to hear.
Well, we don't have any experience because beneficials we don't sell since 2 or 3 years. We stopped selling beneficials, so there is no program from our side. I know there is 1 or 2 beneficials. I think they will be sold by BioBest against Tuta, but we don't have any knowledge about. So yeah, unfortunately.
Okay, good. Thank you, Michael. We will go on with the next presentation. So please welcome our next speaker, which is Kostas Papapostolou, Technical Manager at Talafarm in Greece.
I'm sorry, Heidi, I think
Yes.
Gonzalo is raising his hand or...
Oh, excuse me, Gonzalo, do you have another question?
No, it's fine. We understand that it's better to applicate from the bottom. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. So please welcome Kostas.
Hi, Heidi. I have a question for Mike.
Yes.
Mikey, you mentioned that one has to forecast temperatures. What do you recommend for countries experiencing high temperatures? Does it mean 200 ml is the maximum application rate?
Michael, would you like to answer this?
Sorry, I thought you should answer. Well, yeah, I would recommend, especially at the beginning, to go with a higher rate of 200 milliliters. And then depending on the infestation rate, which you will check by monitoring, to go down then to maybe 100 milliliters. But at high temperatures, the multiplication rate is so high that I would go minimum for 200 milliliters for the first applications. Maybe there are other experience from other countries, but we have been very surprised how much Tutavir we could get in between only 2 or 3 weeks at high temperatures. It was unbelievable. They have been not only in the greenhouse, they have been in the office of the companies, they have been everywhere.
Okay, thank you. So Kostas, the stage is yours, please.
Greetings from Greece. To share the this is just a moment. Greetings from Greece. I am Kostas Papapostolou. I am technical manager of Helafarm. This presentation has 2 parts. The first one is from me, and the second, first year Tutavir experience in Creta, from George Nikoloudakis. Starting with a short history of Tuta absoluta in Greece. Tuta in my country is a very serious pest. For this reason, it is considered among the most severe pests in tomato crops. As can be seen, within 3 years, it expanded throughout Europe and found in Africa. Tuta was observed for the first time in Greece 2009 in Creta, in Chania place. 1 year later, Tuta was spread in all the country, especially in the coastal areas, where the climate is mild. Tomato is infested in both greenhouses and open fields. Tuta affects up to 100% of fruits and prefers leaves and stems, and it penetrates into fruits at high population density. The life cycle of is the picture. We can see the life cycle of Tuta. In our country's conditions, Tuta has up to 10 to 11 generations per year without diapause in winter. The insect completes its life to 30 days. It's about 30 days. Its female lays up to 360 eggs. Now we will go over a few basic actions for a good start. Allow a minimum of 6 weeks from crop distractions to planting the next crop to prevent carryover of the pest from previous crop. Between planting cycles, cultivate the soil and cover with plastic mulch or perform solarization. Use pest-free transplants. Control weeds to prevent multiplication in alternative weed host, especially Solanum, Datura, etc. Prefer modern greenhouse that allow impact insect nettings, double doors, and climate control. Inspect the crop to detect the first signs of damage. For example, weekly observation of 2 plants per 1,000 square. Just a moment. To continue. There are several approved options to controlling Tuta absoluta, including insecticides, mating disruption, and beneficial insects. In this slide, we will see the latest list of registered insecticides in Greece. However, the efficacy of this tactics as a standalone control has diminished in the past several years. Tuta is once again a primary pest due to lose the effectiveness of insecticides. The main reason for low effectiveness is the high resistance because Tuta is a multivoltine insect. As can be seen, in 70 days, Tuta reproduced to an extent of 2 million insects, leading to resistant issues. Most insecticides used have similar mode of action except for virus products and BT products. The development of Tutavir program in combination with both classical and biological control is in progress to verify the possibility to suppress the population of Tuta under a sustainable economic threshold. Special emphasis is given to enhance the synergy between some insecticides and natural enemies. In this slide, we can see that Tuta has developed resistance to a wide range of insecticides groups, such as spinosins, diamides, and pyrethroids and arvamectines. Tuta has developed resistance to a wide range of insecticide groups. In this picture, we can see the infected larva of Tutavir, and here in a live larva of Tuta absoluta. This is the signs of the infected larva of Tutavir. Here, to continue, my colleague George Nikoloudakis from Creta. George.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, from Crete. My name is George Nikoloudakis. I'm the agronomist responsible for the region of Crete and the North Aegean Islands. I hope you're all good and healthy. Kostas? The presentation. Kostas?
Γιώργο, είμαι ok.
Όχι, πρέπει να κάνεις share screen.
Share screen, sorry.
Επόμενη διαφάνεια. Here you can see the current status of tomato crop in Crete. In the region of in Greece, we have approximately 20,000 hectares of tomato crop. About 50 to 60% is located in Crete. Around 2,000 hectares. They are located in the south coast of the island, where the climate is mild. It's about 12,000 hectares are located in the region of Lasiti. 5,000 are located in the region of Heraklion, and 3,000 are located in the region of Chania. In Crete, we have two periods of tomato crop. The first period, which is the main period, the installation starts from August, mid-August, until the late October. And the duration of the cultivation is about 8 months. It depends around the price of the tomato and the demand. Usually, after the Greek Orthodox Easter, the crop usually stops. The second period, it's a minor period, and it takes place, it installs them from March, but it's much more less period. The problem with tuta emerges from September until November. From December to February, usually when the temperatures are very low, the tuta doesn't operate, it's not operational. And then it emerges again from March until May or June. In the next slide, we can see that the tuta absoluta is the greatest enemy of tomato crop, either in the greenhouse or outdoor cultivation, and it can decreases or even destroy the tomato crop. Next slide, please. The main control strategies that we use in Crete is first the cultural practices, rotation with non-solanaceous crop, destroying the infected plants and post-harvested plant debris, removal of wild-host plants, and installing insect-proof nets, and also an antechamber. The biological control is natural enemies, natural predators. We use a lot Bacillus thuringiensis, Tutavir, azadiractin, pyrethins, and paraffinic oils. Another technique, biological technique, is mass trapping, mating destruction, etc. And then we have the chemical control. In the next slide, you can see, let's say, a typical spraying program used in Crete in order to do something with tuta. We start, let's say, with Altacor, along with Tutavir. Then we go to Voliam Targo with Bacillus thuringiensis, again Spinosad, along with Tutavir. Then we do paraffinic oils and some other products. Here you can see the duration for the cultivation is 150 to 180 days. Kostas? And then in the next slide, we can see, as Kostas said before, treated with Tutavir a larva which is dead. It has taken another color from the other one that we see in the right picture. The main aspect is to make a very good coverage in the leaves with the spraying program. The application volume is minimum to 100,000 liters per hectare. And the tuta larva is most active in temperatures from 25 to 35 degrees of Celsius. And as a conclusion, I would like to say, in the next slide, as you can see, when Tutavir is applied without any combination in the initial stages of the crop, with the first 2 applications must be done in a period of 5 to 7 days, and then take the spraying program every 10 to 15 days, we can achieve a very good control of tuta. This program is when we do it in the greenhouse. When we do the program in open field, the spraying must be every 7 days. And in cases of high population, even if the insects have very high populations, the product in combination with other insecticides like Renexipar, Bacillus thuringiensis, Spinosad have performed very well. The general use of Tutavir is about 100 cc to 150 per hectare. And with combination with other insecticides and paraffinic oils, we have achieved a better the increase of interim between the applications from 5 to 7 days to 12. As observations, we have seen that we must apply Tutavir in evening, afternoon, when we don't have so much sun radiation, and the pH of the solution must be 5 to 5.5. And closing, in organic greenhouse tomato crops, when Tutavir was applied with only with Bacillus thuringiensis and paraffinic oils, we have also very good results. And the dosage, as I said before, is 100 cc per hectare, and we made repeatedly applications every 10 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Okay, maybe I can start with one question. Mm-hmm. So you showed this slide where you can see that you actually rotate different active ingredients. Mm-hmm. And it is once a month, if I saw it correctly. Could you maybe explain in more detail why you take like 1 month like this, 1 month like this?
We make a rotation to the insecticides in order not to put the same insecticides, so that tuta doesn't have how can I say πώς λέμε, Κώστα, να μην αποκτήσει ανθεκτικότητα, in order not to achieve when you apply the same insecticides, the larva
resistance
gets used. Resistance, yes.
Okay, I see.
Sensitive to resistance.
Okay. I understand, thank you. And why do you use like 1 month and not, for example, 6 weeks or 2 weeks? What is the reason behind that?
Resistance. That's the main reason.
Okay, thank you. Olina, please.
Yes, I have a question about beneficials. So you don't use macrolopsis or something like this?
In some cases, they use beneficials.
Okay, but the standard program without beneficials?
Yes, I saw you a standard program without beneficials.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Maybe one other question for you. You've showed that over the year you have like 2 main periods where you have problem with tutor. Is this correct?
Yes.
Maybe you can explain, if I remember correctly, in July and August, tutor is very low, and also at some period over the winter. May you explain a little bit in more detail why tutor is less of a problem?
Because from November to February, usually the temperatures are too low here in Crete, so the tutor is not very functional. That's why. And also in the winter months, when the temperature here reaches 35, 40 degrees Celsius, is also the reason that the infection is too low.
Okay, so it's because of temperature.
The majority of greenhouse in Greece, it's not heated.
Okay. But it's the temperature is high enough for the tomato plants to grow, but it's too low for tutor then.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Somebody else? Any question? Otherwise, if not, thank you very much again. And we will come to our next speaker then. So our next speaker is Roman Pobovanec, CEO of Bioprotection in the Ukraine. So please, the stage is yours.
Yeah, hello to everyone.
Hello.
Yeah. Do you see me?
We can see you, but we can't see your presentation yet.
I tried to share my laptop, but I cannot see a function because maybe it's a problem with I don't have a chat.
So it's on the right side. It is an arrow pointing to the top. This is the symbol.
Рядом с кнопкой «Выйти» должно быть, между вот там, где микрофон, там есть стрелка наверх.
Да.
Это поделиться содержимым. Вот на нее нужно нажать.
Я нажал. Ну, это обмен контентом. Вот сейчас видно?
Пока нет.
Вот я в том-то и дело, я знаю, я ее нажимаю, а у меня фактически просто открывается панель обмена контентом и внизу черная. То есть вообще никаких функций.
Ну, можем сделать так. Я могу открыть твою презентацию, или Хайди может открыть твою презентацию, а ты будешь рассказывать.
Давайте. Ну, потому что у меня проблема реально и чата нет. Я открываю ее, и то есть у меня просто внизу черный экран. Я понимаю, мы просто спокойно поделили сейчас. Может быть, ссылки какие-то у нас, ну, я имею в виду приглашения чуть разные, мне кажется, в этом.
Может быть. Heidi, could you open the presentation because Roman can share that it doesn't work with I think it is something with the settings the same as the chat. So you could start the presentation and or share the presentation of Roman, and he will speak.
Yeah. Or I can reconnect if it can help. I don't know, but for now I cannot share.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, it's your screen.
Yes, it's my screen. Can you see it?
Friday. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you can start.
Okay. Hello to everyone. My name is Roman Pobovanec. I'm CEO of Bioprotection. And say a few words about our company. So our core business is crop protection. So we are the biggest production in USSR countries of beneficial insects. So our strategy are mostly the main idea is to do it on a biological control. Of course, include another products which can help us to do all totally control of the crop. So our experience start from 2011, I think. So we are selling products from company Bioline AgroScience, maybe you know. In the past it was Syngenta Bioline. After that, in 2014, we start our own company and our own production, which are located in Ukraine in Dnipro. So this is a few words about us. Maybe we can go to the next slide.
Roman, I'm sorry, production of what?
Of beneficial insects. So it's in our case, it's the main engine can be Macrolophus and Trichogramma. So this is our this is two beneficial insects which we are using on tomato, because today I think it's more interesting crop. So of course we are making crop protection and other crops, but today we are talking about, I think, mostly tomato. It can be tomato, pepper, and eggplant. Okay, it can be next slide. So what I would like to say, first experience comes, I think, from 2012. 2012, I think it starts in Crimea. So I found first adults of Tuta there. I takes it that a lot of tomato are coming there from Turkey, because this product it was competitive with our tomato. It was a little bit cheaper. So historically, it comes a lot of import of tomato coming into Ukraine through Crimea. So first experience coming there, but last years, I think from 2018-19, are coming more and more into south part of Ukraine, and as you see there, and of course it takes part to a south region of Russia. So it's mostly Krasnodar. And we found some of greenhouses which are interested in a crop protection with against tuta, even in Grozny. So this is main locations of, but it's not delayed. These main locations of Tuta absoluta. So a few words about crop cycles. So typically in our countries, we start lightning crops. So it's high technologies greenhouses which are using light. So it typically starts in September. Some of them the most early in August, and all crop cycle comes till October next year, of course. So it takes around 11 months. And some of them are stops in July or August. It can be. So it takes, as I said, 10-11 months. If we are talking about non-lightning crops, so it starts typically in January. Some of them can start in February and goes till November. But it's high-tech technologies, but they are not using light. So it's typical simple greenhouses. I can say a few words about low technique greenhouses. It's small greenhouses, but a huge area of them. So it starts around March, I think March, April, and comes till the same October. It's not even heating greenhouses, so it works like outside temperatures. It depends of outside temperatures. So this is the main cycles of our growing of tomato. So that's for to understanding for all clear situation. We can go next slide. So our strategy are focused for the a lot of it comes to all stages of tuta, because it's very, very important to try to control all the stages. So first steps, what we are doing, we try to put to covering our soil using, as you see, plastic. I don't know how it's. We use covering soil the plastics to make.
So do you cover the soil?
Yeah, cover the soil to put like you know. It's to do like how it's called, coat on the soil, not to go a lot of pupa of tuta, not go into the soil, because it solves a big influence on it, and it not gives it not allowed to come into the soil. And if you use, for example, all these methods, you not receive next year's another population. So the next step, what we are trying to use is to use electric traps. 3 or 4 years before, I tried to put it on the top of the plant, but in the last years, I found that it's more useful to put it under the plant, so it's near the soil, because some of the leaves are stay there, and of course you are received coming of tuta, and typically it coming at night. So what you received, you try to kill these adults using these electricity traps. Another steps, what we are doing, of course, some of the strategy combines to start, for example, with 1 or 2 treatments of chemical. Some of this is greenhouses which have high pressure of tuta. So typically they start to use 1 or 2 treatment with chemicals. I say a few words later, but they like to use, for example, Corrigan, or we are using, for example, spinosad, doing the introduction by how it's called, do introduction into a soil. So, for example, to do it by irrigation. After that, we use our beneficial. It's Macrolophus. It takes around. It comes from 3, maybe sometimes 5 units per square meter. We do it from 2 or 3 times introduction. And in a parallel, we can use trichogramma. It's trichogramma here. It can controls, of course, some stage of the eggs. And a last stage of the way of controlling is to use zentinil. It's pheromones, or you can use, as you said earlier, Isonet or Tutatec. So it controls another way to do a pheromone attack. And of course, last 2 years we received a product Tutavir, and my recommendation to start using it from the first stages of the plant. You can use it even for young plants. There you can use your concentration on the start of the plant, which plants can be around 20 or 30 centimeters. You can use a dose around 100 milliliters per hectare, because you use not a huge amount of the water, and covering can be really in a right way. You can cover your plant, but of course after 1 month, my recommendation to increase the dose around 150 milliliters, and even sometimes we use 200 milliliters. So a few words about our using machines or something like that. Of course, as I said, for most of our clients using robot sprayers, it's like a Mycoton, or something in a such way. So this is typically what we are trying to use. And less of them, this is they're using EMPAS, and it takes a hand spraying, using it by people. So treatment and our rate of the water per hectare around 1,800 liters. Sometimes it grows to 2,000, 2,500. It's maximum rate. So in a such rate of the water, I recommend to use 200 milliliters of Tutavir, because I think what we see last years, 100 milliliters don't give good result. I think it's not enough for such amount of the water. About treatments, our period or intervals of treatment. So on the start of the crop, and it depends of course of the period of growing. For example, if you start in the autumn, if we are talking about lightning crop, so we can use it interval even 10 days. So we don't have enough sunlight, days temperature are not so high. So this, in a such way, you can use interval around 9-10 days. But of course, if we are talking about February or even March, in a such period, we try to use interval around 7-8 days, because you received first sunlight, a lot of sunlight is coming, and as you know, sunlight is damaging our virions. So you need to do treatments every 6, 7, sometimes 7 days. Of course, what I see, the main problematic of our region, and mostly, of course, low technique of greenhouses, they try to use Tutavir when they received a really huge problem. My recommendation is to start with this product from, as I said, from the young plants, for example, from 30 centimeters. So you need to use it on the start 3, 4, even sometimes if you have a huge amount of tuta, you can use for the whole period of growing your crop. But in a such way, of course, it takes a huge amount of using of the product, but you need to combine what you would like to receive. Good crop, or you can use it, because I know a lot of greenhouses on the south region of our countries that they start in January and they stops around July because they cannot do nothing, and after that they are going into a cucumber, for example, because they cannot control tuta on the right level. This is our experience, what I know for sure. So you can do. Please, can you, next slide. What I said previously, I said a few words about doses. So if we're talking about autumn-winter time, lightning crop, you can start with 100 milliliters, but after that, from March, you need to increase it around 200 milliliters per hectare. My opinion is, you understand that if you start in autumn and in the March or even in February, you will receive a little square of your leaves. So you need to cover them on the right way. And not covering, but you need to cover it under the leaf. But in a such way, you need to use a lot of water. So 100 milliliter not gives you so high results. So my opinion, my experience is to use around 200 milliliters per hectare of Tutavir. We do first treatment from the young plants. Of course, if you don't have high pressure of the tuta, you can start, for example, after 1.5 months in your greenhouses. But as I said, it depends of your region and of your pressure. We received a good result. As I said, it's not the latest version of my story, but it's technical part. So I said a few words about rates. So a good result, what we received is to use spinosad. It's 480 grams per liter. So in a commercial products, it can be tracer or laser. We use it around 0.5 liters per hectare and do introduction by irrigation system. Plus we use in the Tutavir on the top of the, no, not top, on the soil. So it's spraying introduction, and we typically try to use Silvet Gold. This is some good results. Some of the clients are using again spinosad, again using Corrigan, but it not gives high result for the whole greenhouses, because you know that Corrigan is using for the too long period, and we can receive some resistance of the tuta. So we can combine it with spinosad. Spinosad, for our opinion, gives a better result. As I said previously, if you have a high pressure of the tuta, you can start, for example, with spinosad on the start of your crop, plus Tutavir plus Silvet. And after 1.5 months, you can do an introduction of macrolophos, because our strategy is to use beneficials. We try to use it for the 100%, because if we not use beneficials, for example, I can say it about low technique greenhouses. So they need to use, for example, Tutavir. This is our strategy for the low technique greenhouses. They use Tutavir plus Bacillus thuringiensis every 6-7 weeks. I know that it gives a good result too. Of course, you, as my previous colleagues said about azadirachtin, you can use, for example, 1 week Bacillus thuringiensis, another week azadirachtin, but you need to do it every week, and it not take difference if it's winter or it's spring. So you need to do it every 7 days, and it takes parts even if you don't have a big pressure. So if you not use any beneficials, you need to do treatment every week. But of course, in a period around July or August, you can receive some problems if you have a really high pressure, and you can combine, for example, with abamectin or such products. I know, for example, like chlorphenapur. I don't know, because a lot of countries stops using these products, but if you can use it, so it can help you. This is, I think, such strategy what we're typically using in our countries. As I said, it depends on the technique level of your greenhouses. So my first slide was for the high technique greenhouses, but for the low technique, we typically start to use with Bacillus plus Tutavir, and it can go from, in a summer period, it can can be Tutavir plus some strongest insecticide. But you know, the biggest problem of tuta, that resistance comes in a 2-3 spraying, and efficacy of your insecticide can lose 50%. So resistance is too high and it not solve a problem. So this is the main idea when you are use chemical way of controlling. Okay. I think this is the main ideas of our experience and our regions. Maybe if you have some questions or some.
So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you too.
Any questions from the audience? Yes, Alina?
Yes, I have a question about the efficacy level with all of your programs, so approximately, of course. Second question about use of Bacillus thuringiensis. So it means you use tank mix always, or as well in rotation, because it was not clear for me. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Yeah, you're right. I need to say a few words about efficacy. So the best efficacy what we received, but it was high level damage against from tuta. So the best way when you're doing from the start, what I show you on my slide, all this controlling all the stages of tuta. The best efficacy what we received at around 95%. So for the whole 11 months, we lose only 5% of the tomatoes. So it's not we are not talking about losing at all, but of course it's some damages which you are not giving it. For example, your tomato cannot be used for the first. The best level of your tomatoes. So it comes, for example, to second level or something like that. But in the middle way, I think it's efficacy. It's around 90%. So 10% you can lose some, or you can your tomatoes can be a little bit damaging, but it not comes for the whole square. Sometimes it can be. So this is a few words about efficacy. And for Bacillus and loop technique methods, I said we use around 1 kilo Bacillus per hectare. And if you use Tutavir plus Bacillus, you need to use in a tank mix here for the 100%. So we don't use on a low level, or greenhouse is not use only, for example, Tutavir. Oh, you can use the Tutavir on the maybe first months of growing your plants. But if you comes, for example, in a spring period, of course, you need to do plus it in a tank mix, for example, with another products. It can be Bacillus if you are afraid about your clear product. But of course, some of the growers use a quite strong chemicals too.
Thank you. Which dosage of or application rate of Tutavir do you use when it's tank mixed with the other products you have explained?
As I said, we use 100 milliliters is only on the start, maybe 1.5 months on the young crop. But if we comes, for example, it depends mostly of rate of the water. So if we are talking about 1,500 liters water per hectare, so I recommend to use 150 milliliters to 200 milliliters Tutavir per hectare, not lower. 100 milliliter gives not high result, because I think it's, as I said, it depends of the covering of the plant under the leaf. So you cannot do in a good way. It's not a right concentration.
Okay, thank you. So there's another question from Massimo, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Massimo Benussi from BioGuard CBC Italy. I have a question for the the team of Andermatt, maybe also for Roma. I have a question about the time mixing of BT plus Tutavir. Since it is notorious that the Bacillus thuringiensis stop feeding the larva after a couple of hours, could this affect the level of ingestion of Tutavir, so that could have a detrimental effect on the ingestion of the Tutavir because of Bacillus thuringiensis stop feeding the larva? Do you have any experience to see whether or not it can reduce the efficacy of Tutavir, the stop feeding of activity of Bacillus thuringiensis?
Roman, do you want to say
Yeah,
something,
I can say
or should I answer?
Of course, 10 mix comes to the whole stages. So, for example, our main idea when we are using Tutavir, it's covering our leaf and under the leaf. So when we received introduction from the egg, on the first stages, they eaten, of course, Tutavir. So the first stage of larvae. But of course, if we have, for example, last stages of larvae, and there, as you right said, Bacillus stops their feeding, so it's two ways of killing. Maybe if Bacillus not works for the 100%, we're expecting of work of Tutavir. But if Bacillus stop feeding, of course, it can make attack on the larvae too. So in a such way, we try to do its double effect. So it gives in two ways. But Tutavir you need to use on the, I think this is the main idea, is to use it on the first stage of larvae. When you received it, it's too short period, even in the summertime. After that, for example, from eggs, you will receive it a few days. And for Bacillus, you can be sure that it can work. And you know, for Bacillus, another not a problem, but it's an idea of work. So we need high humidity, and not all greenhouses can give such high result with humidity. So in such way, Tutavir helps too. So this is two ways of controlling, as I said.
Okay, thank you. Massimo Benuzzi, do you have another question, or is it okay?
It's okay, thank you. I don't want to discuss too much. I disagree about most of the reply, but it's another position. I don't want to keep the story longer.
So from my point of view, we have few experience with exact field trials combining BT and Tutavir. And I must say that I did not see any negative effect combining them, but this is experience from few exact trials, I must say. But I understand your concern that in theory, looking at the mode of action and how it works, that it could be a negative effect if they stop feeding too fast before Tutavir is ingested. But as I said, I haven't seen this on the field yet.
Okay.
Gonzalo, please.
Yes, Roman, do you like to capture females, catch females, and how height of the traps affect the ratio of females and males?
About catching, our last experience, what we received, it's too difficult to do only catching. So as I said, catching of adults we try to do with electric traps. So they are coming through UV. But we try to use, for example, pheromones, or as I said, Isonet. It's not method of catching. We try to stop their reproduction. So this is the main idea of using pheromones and Isonet. but pheromones we don't use in a low level, so it comes around 100 pheromones or 150 pheromones per hectare. So the same results we receive from Tutatect or Isonet. So it's like a pheromone, how it's called? Sorry.
Mating disruption.
It's like a pheromone cloud. So it's they make disorientation. And catching we do only by electric traps. So this is only one way what we can do in a such way. As I said, we try to put it under the plant near the soil. So when you stay your leaves on the soil, a lot of adults are staying there, or they make or they born there, and after that you try to catch it for these traps. But the second part of the questions, I don't hear it for the 100%. Maybe you can repeat, please.
Yes, the ratio of females and males captured. It only catches males, or it catches females and males?
No, for as I said, for the pheromones, of course, you are catching only males. But for example, if you use Isonet, it's as a pheromone clone, so they are not catching. They stops their process of finding each other. So our strategy is to do it pheromone cloud, try to stop the reproduction, and after that to kill it. For example, sometimes we can use black traps. Its method of catching, it's on the some part of the greenhouses. For example, it comes from your doors or end of the greenhouses when you are expecting coming of tuta. And as I said, electricity traps is only, for my opinion and my experience, this is the best way to kill adult of tuta. But another recommendations, sometimes we put a sticky trap on the I cannot show you. I prepared a photo. You can put, for example, sticky traps in your electric trap, because sometimes tuta are not killed by electricity and it drops. How it's called? It drops on the tray of the trap, and there you can catch it by sticky trap. But it's like, but the main idea is of course to killing it by electricity.
Okay, thanks.
Alina, do you have another question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I would like to give my comment to the previous discussion about Tutavir and Bacillus thuringiensis. So my idea or my thoughts about this, actually the feeding period is very short, because as soon the larvae goes into the leaf, so there is no chance to ingest neither Tutavir nor Bacillus, and I think the effect of so if the larvae stop feeding, it is not so essential, because actually it should be already ingested at the beginning with both, and I think this double effect or two mode of actions actually should even increase the efficacy, but not. I don't think it could impact negatively the efficacy, but it's just my opinion or my thoughts.
No, I say a few words. It's tuta. It's too aggressive. So in such way of Bacillus and Tutavir, we try to kill it in two ways. So I cannot say that Tutavir plus Bacillus gives double effect, but it works in two parallel ways. So this is only a way how to not to do only in one solution. We try to do it like, as I said, you can do even sometimes tent mix using azadirachtin or, for example, spinosad. Sometimes we use, I don't know, in our country it's called Proclaim product. So, of course, you can even do three products in a tent mix. So I don't say that it's 100% of solution, but it works in a two parallel ways. We try to kill tuta in such way, but it's for the low technique.
Okay, thank you very much, Roman. We will come to our last speaker of today's workshop. So this is Рафаэль Янгуас, technical manager at Andermatt Iberia in Spain. So please, Рафаэль, the stage is yours.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I will share my presentation. Okay. Okay. So first of all, Andermatt Iberia is a very young company. We have only 1 year. We are distributor of Biocontrol products in Spain and Portugal. Okay, we are going to share our knowledge of Tutavir, and obviously in 1 year we cannot have a big experience. Tutavir have been developed in the Spanish market by other company, which was Agrichem, and which in fact is my former company. So we are going to share this experience based on two different kind of trials. Okay. As a brief introduction, Tuta is in Spain, present since 2006. It is not a real problem in tomato in the open field, but it is the main pest in tomato in greenhouses. In Spain, we have a wide range of greenhouse structures. We have from the most simple walking tunnel to high technology glass houses. So here we have more or less all the situations we can face. Okay. Our experience with Tutavir is based mainly in two kind of trials. We performed, and I mean, in this case, our former company was certified to conduct GP trials. So, okay, we conduct these trials, these seven GP trials. So it's important to notice that these trials were well known. I mean, we have all these GP trials and also field experiences.
I'm sorry, Рафаэль, I think we can still see your first slide.
Okay, you cannot see the. Oh, sorry.
Maybe you were not moving forward. Thank you.
Yep. Can you see the next slide? You cannot see it.
At least I can still see the first slide, Andermatt Iberia.
Okay, I will start again. Okay. Okay.
Yes, now I can see another slide.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now you can see this. Now you are seeing the first slide?
Yes.
Yeah. And then the second one with the tuta situation in Spain?
No.
No? Okay. Now?
Now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay, so I was explaining that we have two sources of experience: the GP trials and also the pre-commercial use of the product. I mean, we have used the product with growers, with some growers, and we have the feedback of these experiences. Okay. As a brief summary of the GEP trials, here you can see the typical results in a GEP trial. And that's very important. When we use Tutavir at low dose rate, the efficacy is it's not spectacular. And when we use the product at the I think the correct dose rate, the efficacy is quite similar to the standard we use it. In these trials, we used as standards Nimasal, Cordalen, and Lepinox Plus. Cordalen and Lepinox Plus are BT products, and more or less the results of this BT and the results obtained with Tutavir are more or less the same. That's important because Tutavir is more expensive than a BT, so it must be taken into account. Okay, as a conclusion of these GEP trials is that the product is as good as a BT or as an azadirachtin, but not better. I say the product is not bad, but is not maybe it's not as good as we expected. In the next slide, we have the experiences with growers is completely different. I mean, growers that have used Tutavir are quite confident on the efficacy of the product, and I also am quite confident on on the efficacy of the product. Where leads the difference of the situation? Why with growers the feedback is so good, and in GP trials we cannot don't get this difference. I mean, the key question here is the vertical transmission. In the GP trials, you only can measure the direct effect of the product. I mean, if you use a BT or if you use Tutavir, you will measure more or less the same, the direct mortality of both products. And also it's important to notice that for both products is the efficacy is very it's influenced by the quality of the spraying. One of the key questions with Tutavir is the use of a correct adjuvant and also a correct spray system. Okay, I have commented that we have used two different bacillus in our GP trials. We used Cordalen and also Lepinox Plus. In fact, the active substance is the same. The difference is only the formulation. That means in the efficacy trials, that means that using the same active substance, varying the formulation, we get very different results. I mean, with when we used the product Cordalen, which have an oil-based formulation, we got better results than with the other product, which is wettable powder. That can also be extrapolated to Tutavir. I mean, if we use Tutavir, it's very important to use a good adjuvant to ensure a good coverage of the leaves. Okay. As a brief summary of the practical programs of Biocontrol in Spain is it's very common to use beneficials. Mainly Nesidocoris is the main used beneficial in tomatoes, and also it's very common to use mating disruption. For IPM, there you have a list of the mainly used products, and for bioproduction, biological production, you have BTs, Azadiractin, Spintor, and natural pyrethrum. You also have soaps and also paraffinic oils and products like this with, with not a direct effect, but a side effect on the pest. Okay. As as a summary of the practical programs, I have chosen 3 different moments before the introduction of beneficials. Before the introduction of beneficials, you can use all kind of products, and it's a good moment to use the most problematic products like abamectin, steward, spintor, and so. In biological production, it's a good moment to use azadirachtin, natural pyrethrum, spinosad, and also it's the beginning of the season is a good moment to introduce Tutavir. During the development of the beneficials, there you cannot use a lot of kind of products. So you in IPM you can use you cannot use a lot of kind of products. So Tutavir becomes a good idea, a good product to use. And okay, and biological you have the BTs, Tutavir, and also this kind of products that may have a side effect. When the pest pressure rises, under challenging pest pressure, there you don't have a lot of alternatives. In IPM, you can only rely on Altacor and in Affirm, but these 2 products are losing their efficacy. So under challenging pest pressure, you have a problem. In a biological program, you will be forced to use tank mixtures of several products. Coming back to the previous discussion, maybe it's not the best idea to use Tutavir together with a BT, but in fact you don't have a lot of you don't have a lot of products to choose, so you will have to do these tank mixtures. Also, it's a good idea to mix Tutavir with Bauveria bassiana, or mix together with paraffinic oils, or with not with potassium soaps because of the pH, but you are forced to use tank mixtures, because none of these products is able to control the pest when the pest pressure is huge. Okay. As a summary, important points to consider regarding Tutavir. The product acts by ingestion, as we all know. So good foliar coverage is mandatory. It's very, very important. A good adjuvant helps. In our trials, it was very clear that you must choose a good adjuvant to increase the product efficacy. And also, it's important to notice that Tutavir alone is not enough when the pest pressure is huge. So you must avoid to reach to these situations. Under our field experiences, we have noticed that if you start using Tutavir early in the season, it's easy to finalize the season without a huge pest pressure. But if you start late or if you use the different products and you don't use them correctly, and you can have problems. And there under these conditions, Tutavir alone is not enough. That's important. So, okay, the last slide. Okay, maybe my presentation has been quite negative, but it's not my intention. I am quite confident on the efficacy of the product, and I want to sell this product because I think it's a very good opportunity for the growers. As a summary, the advantages versus the other products is the main advantage is that it's a new mode of action. The mode of action of the Tutavir is exclusive. You have no other product working with this mode of action. Okay, this is the main advantage versus the BTs, which is, in my opinion, is the closest competitor. The other advantage is the good tank mix of the product. That's very important under challenging conditions, because there you are, the tank mixtures are mandatory. So if you have a product available like Tutavir, you can mix with other kind of products without risk of causing phytotoxicity. That's a very important point. A lot of kind of products like pyretrins, like some BTs or some Bavarias, and so are formulated products, easy products or OD products, and then you can have problems in tank mix, but not with Tutavir. The other important advantage is the complete compatibility with beneficials. That's the main advantage. If you compare Tutavir with azadirachtin, for example, okay, we have also worked a lot of time with Nimasal. Nimasal is a very good product against Tuta, but you have a problem with beneficials in some moments, because but you affect the population of beneficials. When you work with Tutavir, you don't have this problem. And the last advantage, for me, very important, is the vertical transmission. You have if you have a good greenhouse with the vertical transmission can help you to reduce the problem with tuta, and this vertical transmission can be crucial in the success of the management of this pest. So okay, that's all from my side.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation, Рафаэль. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, Edith, please.
Hello, Rafa. Thank you very much for your presentation. And I actually appreciated it very much that you say that it is not enough in case of high pest pressure, because we know very well that every product is not enough against tuta with high pest pressure. So it's not only for Tutavir. I wanted to ask you concerning the adjuvants. Are there any adjuvants that you actually have seen a significant increase in efficacy? And if yes, which type of adjuvants would you recommend? And concerning the vertical transmission, maybe some more data would be very helpful to have them to explain it also to the growers. Thank you.
Yeah, regarding the adjuvants, I have not a clear position. We have performed several trials. As you know, we worked with in the past in my former company. We worked with new film, which is also available in your portfolio, if I am not wrong. But we have also tried with different kind of adjuvants. I have not seen differences between the adjuvants. This season, we are going to perform another trial with several adjuvants, and the protocol is still open, so we can work on this. And regarding the vertical transmission, I agree with you. More data will be appreciated also from our side.
Maybe one additional comment on the vertical transmission. I fully agree with you that it's good to have more data to prove this effect in the lab and also in the field. And we're also working on this season, and hopefully we'll get more data to show end of this season.
Yeah, we are also planning one trial for this season in small greenhouses, very small greenhouses, in which we want we expect to be able to measure this vertical transmission, but who knows? Maybe it won't work. I don't know.
Good to know that you will try at least. Now, just going back to the adjuvants, thank you very much for the information. I was just asking because I don't know if you know the situation in Italy, and I think also in Spain it is changing. A lot of adjuvants are disappearing from the market because of the new regulations for the authorization that in Italy is already in place since several years. So if you did not see any difference among the different adjuvants, or if you will not see any, it would be of help, because at least in Italy we have only a very few left. So this would be important information. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Yes, Roman, please.
Yeah. For me, it's quite interesting question about Nesidocoris. I know some experience from South region that it's not the best solution against tuta, but I know a lot of experience that you can receive a problem. So in the South region, I know in Spain sometimes it can damage crop not less than, for example, tuta. So. Yeah, it's sure. Yeah, it takes.
Yeah, nesidocoris can cause damages on plants or when the humidity is quite low, and when the population is very high. It's a good idea to use Nimazal under these conditions, because then you can control both nesidocoris damages and also tuta. So okay, it's you are right. Nesidocoris can cause damages.
But what the main idea is to use? It's easy to increase the population of nesidocoris. Why growers like to use it?
I'm not an expert on beneficials, but sorry, I'm not an expert on beneficials, and I don't know the reason why.
Okay.
I know that in the past Macrolophus was also used, but I think they are mainly using nesidocoris.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
May I say something? Massimo Benussi still speaking. The fact about nesidocoris is that there is a natural occurrence, so the wild population come out from the field and enter in the greenhouses, even if you don't release nesidocoris. In southern Italy, in Sicily, especially in Sicily, it's happening exactly the same, so you have to keep under control nesidocoris. Even if you release Macrolophus, nesidocoris is more active in many cases, and depending on the season can replace totally the population of Macrolophus. So in that case, you have to spray it or to keep under control because of the puncture of the field, of the feeding activity of the nesidocoris. So even if you don't release, you have still to deal with nesidocoris in Mediterranean part of Italy, and I guess also in Spain.
Thank you. Do we have other questions or?
Hello, it's Juan, a colleague of Rafa as well. Just to add, I think I agree with what Massimo said. Nesidocoris is used in warmer climates. It adapts better to Mediterranean conditions. In many locations, it's spontaneous, but usually it's introduced in the seedling stage in the greenhouses. But there are also other natural enemies which have appeared in Almeria, for example, like Necremus tutai, which is very sensitive to any chemicals, even to just water. Sometimes they say it's a very efficient parasitoid of Tuta absoluta, and I think that's also an opportunity for Tutavir because it's probably the less harmful product you could use with side effects on Necremus tutai. Just as an additional comment.
Thank you, Juan. Okay, so I would like to wrap up this Tutavir workshop session we had this afternoon. So thank you very much again to first all the speakers of today, and thank you very much also for your questions and the participation. So have a nice day. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Yeah, bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay. Thank you for invitation. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.